Howdy folks, welcome to the Deep Space Travel Break, YouTube's most popular No Man's Sky podcast. Granted, there isn't as much competition with Beeblebum now putting his Studio 16 podcast on hiatus. Maybe I can get him as a guest on this show sometime, because I actually really enjoyed listening to his podcast. But it looks like you're stuck with me now. So today's episode is a special one. Now, I know I say that like every other episode, but listen, some crazy stuff has gone down since episode 28. We're going to cover No Man's Sky Orbital, the latest update that brings both incredible new space stations and shipbuilding in the same update. I mean, can you believe it? I'd like to talk about the most notable new features and speculate a little bit about where they might take those features in the future. I should also cover the delays that Xbox and Switch players had to contend with. And in case you missed the news, I actually got to design a very small part of the new stations, which I still can't believe. Also, the channel hit 30,000 subscribers, which is incredible, so we've got to celebrate that too. Anyways, I'm Kanaju, and this is the Deep Space Travel Break, episode 29, brought to you by Monolith DARK. Frighteningly effective. Mysteriously attractive. Awaken your dark side. Monolith DARK. The new fragrance for Gek. Thanks again to Monolith DARK, available in Trade Federation controlled stations or wherever Monolith products are sold. So let's get to our main topic of the show, No Man's Sky Orbital. Oh man, where do we even start? Well, I mean, obviously, with the space stations, right? This is a standout update to me, personally, for several reasons. Reason 1, it's the most substantial update to space stations since 2018's next update, I want to say. Reason 2, shipbuilding is perhaps the most substantial update to Starship acquisition since, I don't know, maybe ever. Reason 3, guilds and reputation now have tangible benefits. And reason 4, most selfishly, this is the first update I've ever contributed to. But I'll come back to that. Let's talk space stations. I love the new space stations. I love pretty much everything about them. I love the new exteriors. You know, they're so colossal and detailed. They're reminiscent of classic sci-fi artwork, and they tie into the visuals of the planetary archives, like the updated freighters we got for Endurance, and pirate dreadnoughts, right? They all look more consistent now. So the exteriors look great, and they're more varied than the old exteriors, by a long shot. I also love the new interiors. From the second you enter the station, you're bombarded with color. Since last week, I've seen a lot of unique combinations of colors, each one giving its station a completely different atmosphere. Even if nothing else changed between stations, I think just the color would go a long way to making each station, and in turn each system, feel unique. Luckily though, there are plenty of other procedural elements. The runway has multiple designs, the core has multiple designs, the cartographer has multiple designs. Even the guilds finally feature different designs based on location. The system's controlling race also features prominently into station generation now, which is something I've been hoping for years. You know, you have large emblems that make it clear whose territory you're in. Each of the 3 races have different types of decorations. And when you combine all that with the lighting, there's infinitely more variety than previously possible. Now, while the visuals and decorations are more varied than ever, the shops are pretty much as consistent as you'd expect. The cartographer has a couple variants, which I appreciate. And theoretically, the exosuit and multi-tool shops do too. However, those shop displays aren't currently functional, but if you look at screenshots in the patch notes, you can see what they're supposed to look like. Anyway, I was a little disappointed at first that there wasn't more variety between, stations. They were all laid out exactly the same. We have the same shops in the same places in every station, like we did previously. However, thinking about it more, I think this makes sense from a gameplay perspective. The trade terminal and teleporter being in the middle makes perfect sense. Since the new stations are arranged with a more intuitive use in mind, it might get annoying to have to figure out where basic services are every single time you visit a new station. Sure, the explorer in me would love the variety, don't get me wrong, the immersion, but it's way more efficient and user-friendly to keep things consistent. So in this case, I'm cool with gameplay winning over variety. In addition to new visuals, space stations also carry some new features. You can now find 2 multi-tool cabinets per station instead of 1, which, funny enough, used to be a possibility back in like 1.0, because you used to be able to find multi-tool cabinets in the back rooms of the stations, which aren't around anymore, which is fine. We're going to get to that. Well, technically they're in the abandoned stations, but I digress. So in addition to the multi-tool cabinets, guilds now offer supplies that normally wouldn't be obtainable in stations, which is really cool. There's also more lootable containers strewn about, not just plants, but like other types of lootable containers that give you credits and things. I think you can get carbon, credits, nanites, and navigation data now. At least that's what I've seen, which is cool. Most notably, of course, the biggest new feature is the ability to fabricate your own starship. Which, I can't believe I'm saying this, but after over 7 years, starship customization is finally a thing. Sort of. It's actually starship building, as you can't modify your existing starships. Rather, you can scrap starships for parts and then use those parts to construct a new starship of your own design. You can change the colors and material types in order to create designs that we've never seen out in the wild. It's a pretty cool system. Each starship class is different to build, with the explorers allowing you to attach wings individually and, each class having its own quirks. Right now, the feature, though, is limited to only 3 classes of starship: fighters, haulers, and explorers. Now, I think there's a good chance we see more added later, but I'll talk about that soon. Right now, I want to share my thoughts on how shipbuilding might affect ship hunting, because for those who are unaware, there is a whole community of players dedicated to hunting for their perfect starships. Since ships in this game are procedurally generated, finding your ideal ship is kind of a matter of luck, right? There is strategy to it, but it's a lot of luck. And some folks are worried that the ability to build your own ship will make ship hunting more or less pointless. It seems to be a very small contingent of people who think that, because the general consensus, and I personally agree with this, is that shipbuilding only makes ship hunting more popular. Because you can't just buy ship parts right now. You have to acquire a ship with the specific pieces you want out in the wild. So you still have to go from system to system hunting for your ideal ship parts. On top of that, there are still millions of ships that you can't build right now. Plus, player-built ships don't carry the same certification as NPC ships, which means they trade for less value, and they don't serve as a replacement for classic ship hunting. It's a win-win as far as I can tell. So far, the update is 2 for 2 in my book, right? The new space stations are epic, and shipbuilding is super cool. Before I move on to speculation, I want to briefly talk about some of the more overlooked changes. Because with headliners as big as new space stations and shipbuilding, believe me, there was some stuff that was overlooked. Firstly, I love that faction standing now has additional benefits. You get great discounts with upgrade vendors depending on your standing, and guilds also offer exclusive, free, and discounted supplies to ranked members. I can even donate supplies in exchange, which I don't need to do because I'm already max rank, but I do like to do as sort of like a role play. Like, sure, I'll take this free module you're offering, but let me offer you something in return. These guild benefits are pretty awesome, honestly. It almost reminds me of a bartering system, which is something I've always wanted in the game. But no, it's really cool. And it has me actually visiting the guild representatives in every station I visit, which that's something I haven't done in years. They've pretty much been not worth the time to visit since like 2019 for me. So that's a pretty big deal. It's good to see some of the game's older ambient features get some love. And I think it helps everything feel more coherent and interactive. The universe as a whole feels more functional. Speaking of more interactive though, we also have the biggest update to Frigate Expeditions since their addition in 2018. And the craziest part is, I still haven't been able to trigger these new things. Maybe it's because my fleets are overpowered, so they don't really need my help. I might need to try it on another save, but Essentially, from what I understand, frigates can now contact you mid-mission and ask for assistance. They could be asking for your advice on various situations, or they could be asking you to warp in to assist them in combat situations. It sounds really cool, and I can't wait to try it for myself. It reminds me a lot of the procedural adventures I've been wanting for years, and I'm really glad to see the frigates get some love. Also, it's the second update in the last year to give us more ambient quests. While rare, I do think stacking all of these small possibilities for quests makes for more surprising gameplay, especially to new players who haven't maxed everything out yet. I think it's going to make the game a lot more interesting. Altogether, we've seen improvements to multiple gameplay loops in Orbital, continuing a 2+ year trend of updates that improve and deepen existing features versus just adding a bunch of new ones, although I guess you could argue that shipbuilding is a new feature, which will probably continue to be expanded as well. That said, shipbuilding also adds depth and rewards to starship salvaging, so it could be seen as an extension of that loop. Improved faction rewards make guild missions more enticing, and you have another way to increase guild standing without needing to take missions. And of course, it's never been a better time to be a fleet commander now that you can actually take a more active role in your expedition success. It's all good stuff as far as I'm concerned. As always, there are a lot of other great improvements, but I'm not covering all of them in this video. Now, before I move on to a topic that you know I'm excited to get to, I feel like I should acknowledge the delays that players on Xbox and Nintendo Switch have had to contend with. The update was released on PlayStation and PC on Wednesday, March 27th. However, it didn't hit Xbox until the following Tuesday. And as far as I know right now, I think the Switch players are still waiting. Let me know in the comments if you're one of those Switch players. Have you gotten the update yet? I know some folks were pretty upset about the delay on the Xbox side, which makes sense. It's frustrating to see everyone enjoying the new content and trying to avoid spoilers. I remember there was an update last year that was delayed at least a couple days for PlayStation, and being a content creator who plays on PlayStation myself, that did put me at a bit of a disadvantage, but it wasn't the end of the world. I'm a No Man's Sky super fanboy, but I survived. So, that said, I wasn't missing out on these beautiful new space stations, so I was never tested in the same way y'all were. Still, every platform has different standards for certifying game updates. Switch usually takes the most time, PC the least, since it doesn't really have any barriers. So, I would give HG a break. We don't have any reason to believe they're not doing their best to resolve the issue. I personally believe they are, but still, I think moments like these would be good opportunities for Hello Games to offer a little more transparency, especially on technical matters. Sure, it wouldn't really make a difference. Most people probably wouldn't see the message, and the ones who are really upset probably wouldn't find it satisfactory, but some folks might appreciate it. Speaking of guessing upcoming content, though, let's speculate a little bit about upcoming features. That was a weak segue, but let's talk about speculation. You see, as usual, Hello Games have built these new features with scalability or modularity in mind. In other words, these features, they can build upon them later without needing to do another complete rework, right? With the previous stations, it would have been really hard to add anything to them. With the new stations, I think it's a lot more future ready. For example, I'm pretty sure we're going to see more features added to shipbuilding. No guarantees, of course, but in the Orbital update trailer, we did see footage of a shuttle being built. So it seems like some work has already been done to make that possible in-game. In fact, it seems like they were probably going to ship it with shuttle, but maybe they ran into a bug or something. Shuttle parts for the fabricator were already found in the game's files. Some people have been able to mod that ability back in, so it makes sense to me that they'd add that feature pretty soon down the line, but we never know. In addition to shuttles, some folks were already able to mod in the ability to build solar ships as well. Considering solar ships have such large sails, I don't think they'd fit in the current ship fabricator unless they were retracted, which might make it a little more difficult to see how it's going to look finished. In fact, I'd kind of prefer that you weren't able to build solar ships in regular space stations. Instead, it'd be kinda neat if solar shipyards were exclusive to pirate-controlled systems, since solar ships are most common in those systems and they're commonly associated with pirates and outlaws. I think that would help make solar ships feel more like outlaw creations, and it would allow Hello Games to build a fabricator platform that could comfortably fit a solar ship with its sails out. Or maybe the sails won't be out and they'll have like a hologram of the sails next to it. I don't know. But then again, I have no idea how they'd fit any of that into Outlaw Station interiors. So maybe they become a new point of interest. Solar shipyards. Or maybe I'm going too far, right? That's a lot of work. What do y'all think? Would you like to see solar ships added? And do you think it'd be a good idea to have them in the regular Starship fabricators? Or do you think it would make more sense to have them in some other place? Maybe it doesn't have to be exclusive to Outlaw systems, but maybe it's like a planetary point of interest? I don't know. Other ship types, such as Sentinel Interceptors and Living Ships, I think they should probably remain unbuildable for both lore and gameplay reasons. Exotics, on the other hand, are the one type I'm kind of unsure about. For one, there isn't much variety, right? Not compared to the other Starship classes. Besides that, I like how exclusive and mysterious they feel, and I think they might lose some of that mystery if you could just build one anywhere. All that said, if they were the only ship type where you could buy parts and they were extremely expensive, I mean, that might make sense, right? Because then you'd have to be really, really rich to build one. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up here. If anything, it might be cool if there was a whole new class of starships, perhaps similar in design to the Starborn Runner, that could only be built by players. So you wouldn't see these ships anywhere in the wild. So in order to collect parts, you'd have to purchase them from random shops or maybe receive them as Nexus mission rewards. Could be interesting, right? A lot of work though to implement. Not sure if I really want them spending that much development time on another Starship class, unless it did something more unique. Now, if they added Starship Racing, I think it would make a lot of sense to add, custom racing class. Anyway, that's getting too far in speculation. Besides shipbuilding, I also think the new stations are built in such a way that they could easily add on to them in the future. So the previous stations, they were small, right? Relatively small. So every time they added something new, it often felt tacked on, like the scrap dealer who's just kind of there. Whereas in the Outlaw stations, he has a whole scrap yard and it feels more integrated. So the new stations actually feature a lot of space that could easily be converted to new shops, kiosks, or other features. You see, these walls with X's on them are actually filling in empty stalls. So if you were to remove the X walls, you'd have little areas the same shape as the main shops, like these sort of arch-looking alcoves. These are the same things, they're just covered up. In fact, if you glitch your camera through the wall, you can actually see there's geometry behind each X wall. Room geometry. Considering how underutilized the third floor is, I wouldn't be surprised if they had some plan for it later on. And there are even more small rooms on the first floor that they could still utilize at some point. All that said, it might actually just be leftover vestigial space from a previous iteration of the stations. Maybe they did originally vary the locations of the stations and then they discovered through playtesting that players kind of hated having to go all the way upstairs to interact, and instead they decided to move everything closer to the center. That would make sense to me. There's also a chance that they never do anything with it, right? And it is just leftover space. After all, there is a giant door at the back of the space anomaly with some basic geometry behind it that's gone unused since 2019. So I wouldn't hold my breath for anything new here. That said, I would love to see some more procedural shops placed in these spaces. So inconsequential services that you don't necessarily need in every station. These could be little food or drink shops, right? Since we have all these cooking products, maybe one of them is a cooking station, or it is an actual bar. Since we have those neon signs that they gave us last year, and there's one for each race already. So depending on, which system you're in, maybe it could spawn one of those three. I don't know, I'm spitballing, right? Maybe they could have ship part sellers with rare parts at a high price. So every now and again you find a station that actually will sell you part of a fighter or something that you want, but it'll be very expensive. Or maybe there's an antiques trader. Since we get those in space and you have the antiques, what's it called? Kiosk trade vaults at the planetary archives, maybe something like that. I mean, you don't have to copy and paste the same thing, but I'm just saying, like, there are a few other things you could implement. Even like another weapon vendor, even though they already have 2 multi-tools. Maybe there's, in a Viking system, there's a higher chance to have a 3rd weapon vendor, you know what I mean? You never know. They could be redundant, almost to imply that there is competition. Maybe Keck stations are more likely to have more vendors. Maybe Korvac stations. Maybe you replace them with things that are just decorative, right? Like one of the alcoves might be open, but it's full of servers, or research, or even just an aquarium or something. I don't know. I'm spitballing here. Would that even look coherent? Would it improve space stations? I don't know, but it'd be kind of fun to explore. I'd like to reiterate that the new space stations as they are, lovely, beautiful. Which brings me to my new favorite part of the new space stations, the ads. You already know why. I'm still over the moon, which I keep saying because it's still true. For those of you who somehow missed my giant ego over the last week, which congratulations if you did, let me tell you, I was granted a very, very rare opportunity to collaborate with Hello Games on the new space stations. And when I say collaborate, I mean contribute very, very little. Don't get me wrong, I'm not taking any credit for their incredible work. The only thing I'm taking credit for is this little part right here. The kiosk ads. Not even the kiosk itself, just the images on the kiosk. You see, I'm a graphic designer by trade, and it's always been a very particular dream of mine to design in-universe advertisements for video games. I kid you not, I chose my whole college major, graphic design, on the idea that I wanted to create video game ads. In-universe in-game ads and like video game marketing. And that all spawned out of like my love for the advertisements in the BioShock franchise. I used to be obsessed with those things. It's actually what got me into BioShock in the first place, and then that ended up becoming my favorite game of all time. But the advertisements were what sold me on it. So ever since then, I've dreamt of having my work featured in some digital universe. And these space station ads, it's an actual dream come true. It's like the granting of a wish, essentially. So I just want to say thank you so much to Hello Games for giving me a shot, and thank you so much to y'all, the viewers, who actually made it possible. Y'all give my voice some weight, you know what I mean? You make it possible for me to even have these opportunities. So thank you. And for those curious, I designed the ads that cycle through the standing kiosks, and the ones that are shown on the left side of the new trade terminals. The ads on the right side of the trade terminal and the ones mounted on walls were designed by another talented artist at Hello Games. So it's been fun watching folks translate the messages and laugh at the Fragrance for Geck ad. Honestly, that was one of my favorites of the batch, so I'm really glad they selected it. I think it really adds to the lore of the game. The green Geck posters actually feature art from the Traveler's Deck, the No Man's Sky playing cards I was also lucky enough to have designed. Funny enough, the Atlas Diamond with the units in the eye seen on the pink billboard, it's actually a symbol I created or a combination of symbols I created for the Traveler's Deck as well. It's on all of the unreleased poker chips and some of the ephemera I sent Hello Games back in the day. Again, I'm humbled for the chance to get to share my work with such a talented team. I don't know if I can talk about any of the designs that didn't make it into the game. I don't think I can. But I will say that the ones they chose all seem to have like a strong primary color, which works well with a wide variety of station interior color schemes. They know what they're doing. There are some designs I would have loved to see in the game, but thinking about it now, they might not have worked with every color combination. Procedural generation can be tough. But who knows, right? They might find a use for one of those leftover designs someday, and I hope they do. Fun fact, the glyphs you see on the side of this podcast are actually leftovers themselves from an unofficial procedural signage project I worked on after the Frontiers update. It was something I was hoping to pitch to Hello Games back in the day, but I actually put it on the back burner specifically to start making YouTube videos, which is funny because now that's come full circle because the videos made it possible for me to pitch those signage ideas to Hello Games. Didn't see that one coming. Anyways, that's enough about me. Let's talk about y'all. All 30,000 of y'all. That's a lot of y'all. Thank you so much for getting the channel to 30k subscribers. I always say that I might make the videos, but y'all make them successful. And seriously, it's all thanks to your support. Y'all have made so much possible. Thank you, everyone. And I especially want to thank my valued members of the channel. Thank you, each of you, for your extra support. April G, the Andre Louise, Schmenky, Carbon Robot, Suman1999, Jonathan Downen, Mandrake, Michael Hammond, and Arcady. Thanks so much for helping to make my videos possible. Regarding channel memberships, I'd also like to make a couple of changes. Firstly, I'm doing away with the more expensive tiers. Gone. Save your monies. So now it's just the $2.99 tier, full stop. No extra tiers. I'm also adding a couple of new emojis for channel members to use. A shocked face, which you might have seen in the Roblox video, and a second one, which I'm still working on. It's kind of hard to make a laughing face with one eye and no mouth, so we'll see what the second emoji ends up being. But it'll be available soon. The shocked face is already in YouTube. So if you didn't know about channel memberships, well, it's a way to support my efforts more directly while gaining access to extra perks like members-only live streams, videos, posts, and of course, emojis. Plus, there are nifty badges that go next to your name. No pressure, of course. All my main video essays, free for everyone. But if you have an extra $2.99 a month burning a hole in your pocket, I wouldn't mind. So thanks again to my current members. And before I close the podcast, and while I'm on this uninterrupted string of self-promotion, I also want to promote my April Fool's Day video. It's actually a documentary about my time on Roblox, back when Roblox was like, when it first went public in 2006. It has some anecdotes about like the interesting and now very successful people I met back then. I talk about some of my successes and my eventual retirement from the game. However, I also announced my unretirement because I have an upcoming project that I am really excited to share. So if you'd like to see that, if you're interested at all, if you love personal stories, video game history, or you don't know what else to do with your time, hey, consider giving it a watch. My wife said it was a very good video, so there you go. Glowing recommendation. And also my next video, it may or may not be that big 1 hour video I've been talking about working on for the last 3 months. It's still in the works, or it might be another Orbital video, we'll see. But I think that's enough rambling for me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like on the video if you liked it. Feel free to subscribe if you love No Man's Sky or just video games in general. I like to talk about things I love. So mostly positive videos on this channel. Very rarely do I make any... do I make any negative videos? I don't know. Sometimes I say... There's that one where I was ripping into IGN. But other than that, I mean... anyways, this has been the Deep Space Travel Break, your source for whatever I can tangentially relate to No Man's Sky. I've been Kanaju, you've been great, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks again, and adios! Awaken your dark side. Monolith DARK. Awaken your dark side.